Hi, and thanks for joining the Neurodivergent Resource Podcast. Today, I'm joined with Dr. Michael McManmon, and I'm so honored and thrilled to be having this conversation. I've learned only a little bit about Michael, and I look forward to learning so much more. Dr. McManmon, how would you like me to address you?
Michael is fine. Yes.
Great, Michael. Thanks so much. Before we get started, just please an introduction from you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll just dive down the rabbit hole.
Well, I always start with the soft stuff because it's most important to me. So I have 6 children, 19 grandchildren. I started, I worked, my business was working with, ever since college, volunteering in college, I worked with kids. And so I started what we call college internship program. And that has 5 centers around the US. And we started with our curriculum, which was specialized for autism about 15 years ago. And it's very comprehensive in nature. It includes everything from social thinking to sensory integration, physically, setting up wellness plans, dealing with academics, vocational. So it's a very comprehensive model, and it's in 2 centers in California, one in Indiana, one in Massachusetts, and one in Florida. And now I am just the emeritus because my son has taken over it. But I've done a lot of books on that. There's 5 of them out there on autism, Jessica Kingsley Publishers mostly. And then I strayed into other areas from there, which is a love novel. Also, I did my memoir, which is called The Best for Last, because I feel like God has saved the best for last for me. Because I went through a very traumatic childhood with a lot of people on the spectrum in different ways, older siblings who died, unfortunately, and lots of problems. So I basically was a psychologist by the time I was 10, being one of the youngest kids and seeing what's going on around me. And I was one of those little professors, they describe these little kids who can see things that are like adults see them. But, and so in that area, I was sort of savant. I knew what they should all do, but they didn't listen to me, Anyway, that's a little bit of what I've been doing. I am also an artist and a big writer, a screenwriter and a Netflix series writer. And I'm working on maybe 5 different projects right now. Another book coming out, which is called Cafe Mortality. That's about a weekend retreat that 5 people take about loss. And it's a conversation with these 5 people for 3 days. And I wrote that in Brazil at Christmas time.
Wow.
Crazy, huh?
Oh, the type of inspiration I can imagine that you get, especially when you're immersing yourself into different cultures and being able to just really sit with all the different experiences and share those. So grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I've lived in Mexico for 8 years. It was probably the best decision I made. My accountant and my lawyer said, gave me high fives. But not just financially, but emotionally for me, I needed to be in a calmer culture, where I can do things and relax. And there's plenty of, plenty of gringos down here. It's like 25,000 of them in this area. So it's a mix.
Yeah.
But this is distinct from your visit to the ocean. Because in the middle of Mexico, if you live in one of these, there's lots of beautiful cities and towns. But if you live in one of those, you're really immersed in Mexican culture, in Spanish culture. And it's quite different than being in a tourist area.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband's grandfather took us, I can't believe I can't remember where it was. But anyways, he did live in Mexico. And so when we went on our vacation, he took us to some of the villages that he lived in and met some of the families that he had stayed with and kept in touch with. And so being able to see the different side of that exactly.
Right.
And like you said, the calm the simpleness of the life, and just the beauty of the taking what is present. And I think that's something here up north we don't take, we take for granted instead of take advantage of.
Yeah, yeah, we've lost a lot in that area
Yeah.
of family life, and you don't see homeless people because families stay together
Yeah.
in several generations in the house. So it's quite different. But I mean, there's negatives and positives, to being in a culture like this.
Of course. How has your experience been um, in Mexico as an I assume that you are yourself are autistic. I'm assuming that. I
Yeah,
don't know why, but
no, it's okay.
from your experience. But how has that been? Like the are you providing an education maybe that they didn't have access to as much?
Well, like I said, there's about 25,000 gringos in this area. So I'm part of the Arts League here, among other things. I was talking to we were having a doggy fashion show here. So
Mhm.
I'm in charge of it for next fall. I was talking to one of the committee ladies, and has an autistic son, and said, oh, she has three other friends, and I know at least two other ones. And I said, we should do a support group for the parents, because what happens with these young adults, and these ones are like 30 and 40 years old, some of them are late 20s, and they sort of lose them by then if they don't have some kind of aha moment themselves, where like I was diagnosed like, what, 16, 17 years ago. So, and that helped me change my whole life in every area. But those who don't get that, I often have wives come to me and say, can you talk to my husband? I know he's on the spectrum, because she's wanting to go out and travel to Peru, and he won't go anywhere and do anything. He's stuck on the TV or doing this or that.
Yeah.
So there's special interests. So there's a lot of problems, even with adults, right?
Yeah.
But so I said to them, why don't we have a support group once a month? We can meet. And and she said, well, why, my son doesn't talk to me for a year. And I said, well, since I told him I wouldn't give him any money, she said, because he was trying to cut him off. Anyway, there's a lot of need for that down here.
Yeah.
The schools, of course, don't have anything. So there's no
Definitely.
special ed or anything. So I don't know what they do with
A lot
kids.
of
I mean, if
work.
you have money, you just send them to a private school, but that's not going to happen for most kids.
Yeah.
So but I am up north all the time. I going up Friday for 2 weeks. I come back for a couple of weeks, go back up. I go around the world quite a lot. I've spoken in Europe a lot and different countries. But they don't do that hands-on stuff as much as they do online now. So there's still quite a need everywhere for information. The information hasn't changed that much. Some of the lingo is like, we're talking about neurodiversity, which is great, because people really get that. And I do have a granddaughter who's 10 up in Maine, and I'll be going up to see her. Our daughter's having a hard time finding a therapist. She's losing her therapist.
Mm.
And she says, well, there's not that many people here who know what they're doing.
Mhm.
And but so there's the general information about what people do during adolescence, the executive functioning, the cognitive flexibility, all of that stuff is the same. There's some of the lingo has changed, and there's some little bit different therapies out there that are available, but it's basically the same thing. It hasn't changed that much. Just better diagnosing, maybe, it depends on where you live,
Yeah.
and then better services, maybe, depending upon where you live.
Yeah. No, that is so true. And I myself have held international autism summits virtually online. And, that was one thing that I was so grateful for in learning, was that there were so many places that were just getting access to education, to information about autism. And I think that there is so much work to be done around the world, but uh, they they're so lucky to have you there to give them that guidance, because
Yeah.
I as well love to build communities, and there's nothing more important than bringing together a community that feels isolated until they get to know that they are like you said, basically uh, going through a lot of the same instances and experiences and can really feel connected and relatable with one another. I think that's more important than anything when you're a parent, especially.
Yeah, wherever I've gone to speak, I ask them, "Do you want me to do other things?" I'm speaking for 2 hours or an hour. I said I would be willing to go the next day to schools, talk to
Wow.
teachers, and I've done that in Denmark. I've done it in Peru. I've done it in all different places.
Wow.
And I went to the special ed department, the whole country of Peru, and talked to the people there. And they'll pull out a ADA, American for Disabilities Act law that they have, but it's not integrated in their society. For example, in Mexico and most countries in South America, they don't do curb cuts.
Yeah.
They don't fix sidewalks for kids, on the main street maybe, but the side streets, I mean, if you have a wheelchair, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so this kind of thing. So it's really important. That's one of the things that we do have in the U.S. that we can be proud of. That was
Mhm.
started by Republican Bob Dole, right, way back. And when we had Congress that worked together on things like that,
Right.
highways. But anyway, just I wanted to mention some of the other things I'm involved in real quick, if that's all right.
Oh, please do.
Sure. So, like I said, I'm writing this Cafe Mortality that's going out now. And then I have a love novel that went out a few months ago. That's called True Normal. And
Oh.
it's a little bit different. It's got three endings because it
Oh,
splits in the middle.
love
When
that.
and I have a lot of experience with addiction in my family and stuff. So it's really about a relationship where when the person goes into addiction, you have two endings where the couple stays together on one side, and on the other side they split apart, and you see both of their endings. So you see all three endings. It's pretty interesting, but it's good for people who are involved in addiction and stuff, which is also one of my side things.
Mm.
Um, uh, and uh, and I have two books of poetry. I have, that are published. I also on Amazon, all of it, except for
Okay.
Jessica Kingsley Publishers. And I do have my own YouTube channel. It's called Autism Creativity.
Oh,
And for example, one went out this morning. We're trying to do small videos on art and things like that, and fashion. So let me explain. I bought a painting at a thrift store, and I took it and renovated the painting in about 15 minutes. So I bought a $5 painting, 15 minutes made it into a beautiful painting. So that's a little tiny YouTube thing I put out.
oh, that's so neat.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of things like that, very creative things. I found junk at the dump that I've made into art, and things like that. And then I have my own fashion line, which is called Upcycling Art to Fashion. So what I've done, oh, this is an example right here.
No kidding. No
Yeah,
kidding. I was
so this
wondering.
is
I
all
really
my art. I'll show you there a little bit better. This is
Michael.
all my art material from a painting where I make fabric out of it. And I've done 10 fabrics already. Take a plain shirt, bring it to a seamstress, and for a couple dollars, she does this.
I
And
love
so,
that.
yeah, it's really nice.
My daughter does
And
crochet, and
yeah,
she makes these crazy crochet things with her hands.
that's
Big
cool.
dog beds.
Well, really.
Yeah.
So I have about 100 items in that. It's not an online store yet. I don't know
Oh,
what
you're
I'm
gonna
going
do
to do
that?
with it.
That's neat.
I'm not sure, but I have labels, and I'm
Yeah.
getting
Oh,
a
congratulations.
patent on the name.
Yeah, I
So
love that.
this, I guess I mention all this for a big reason. I want to make a point here. People on the spectrum who get liberated, and that would be really understand their diagnosis and their, like I have still trouble with social, big trouble still in different areas. And I make mistakes. I have to apologize right away. I wrote a couple articles in the past called I'm an equal opportunity offender. And, and the other one, what was the other one? Well, I forgot what the other one is, but
My husband is gonna love that.
yeah, because I mean, I can do
You're
it.
all
It's like the little boy who's in the supermarket and says to mommy, look at the fat woman out loud, right?
yeah,
That is me still, unfortunately. I've learned, I've
yeah.
got more of a, there's more space between here and here now.
Mhm.
There's a little editor here that didn't exist prior to 15 years ago. And I don't know how I survived, with my staff and everyone else. I mean, I used to ask on interviews things that are totally illegal,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
funny. My husband,
hiring.
I gotta
I would
use.
never, I'd never exist nowadays to be charges against me. But I've modified quite a bit. So what I say, why I'm talking about all this is that if you can get these kids diagnosed really well and having them understand their diagnosis, get sensory profile, social profile, and they know what they have to work on and what they have to do, and you're working with the real stuff and the parents are not in denial, then you can here's the problem. When they go through CIP for a couple years, if they don't get it in their head the right way, they go out there and it's like the supermarket closed down and they're still going to stand by that door for weeks and wait for it to open when it's not going to ever open again. If they don't get that over that cognitive rigidity and see that it's in their benefit to be flexible and to try new things. And I have whole presentations I've done on this. We could do one on here sometime. I have 40 things that I do during the day that are unique to keep
Oh,
myself flexible. For example, I have 8 chairs around my dining room table. I'm sitting on one of them. I'll eat breakfast at all different ones
I
and
like
at the counter because I'm facing different directions. That's making my brain. I,
visually, yeah.
I stand up to put my clothes on and my shoes and my socks. I don't sit down. I balance myself.
I've never sat down to do that. My husband
Yep.
does that. I don't understand that. I'm
It's
I'm
not,
gonna
it's
have
not
to
good.
get you on
Good
that.
as you get older, you need balance, you need stamina.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
used my Aspie brain to research foods, everything for virility. As I
yeah.
get older, and that's the benefit of your autism is you can have that Einstein syndrome where you can concentrate on areas, your special interests, and really get all the information and
Yeah.
look at all the blue zones videos and then figure out which part you can do to help yourself. So that's the benefit of being fully out of in your diagnosis
Mm,
as you get older,
yeah.
because the world becomes your candy store.
No, I couldn't agree more, and I was diagnosed at 47 as well. I think 47. I don't know, I said as well, but, I is it was interesting. Being a podcaster, thought, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to take this information and share it right away," and it really did take a few months for me to have this introspection of, "This is what it looks like for me and my family." I found it more fascinating when I really saw that my husband was autistic when we were at our son's like fifth ADOS testing, and I thought, wait a second, okay, this is lining up. Now I see I'm checking these boxes, and I thought, I give this guy that I love all of these accommodations for sleep and eating and talking and all of these things, and then I finally realized, and I went to him and I said, I think you have Asperger's and you're a lot like your son. And it took him a little bit to kind of realize, but yeah, as soon as, like you said, it was life changing and just embracing. And one of the most positive things for our family was all of our kind of acceptance of ourselves and understanding more about ourselves and how we could love and support each other better.
Cool. Well,
Yeah,
we used to say the Asperger's doesn't fall far from the tree, but now we say the autism doesn't fall far from the tree.
I agree.
And, I had so many parents at CIP who were doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs, and they'd come in the first day. We'd have a group of 20 parents, sets of parents, and we would talk with them separately from the students. And we would just have them take some time to tell us how they got here. all the misdiagnoses, all the schools, all the different therapies they tried, everything. And and then it was real, like I would just say, being autistic, I would just say, well, you're probably on the spectrum too. And I mean, when you have a doctor show up for an interview with a student, and you look at the mom and you look at the father and you go, they're both on the spectrum, and
Exactly.
they don't even know it.
Oh.
And the doctor has nose hairs coming out of his nose that are so long that you want to clip them yourself, and you say, how does this guy, a doctor, and he's
I know.
brilliant, but he doesn't know his nose hairs are coming out of his ear, is everywhere. And it's so ridiculous. It's like, it just points out to you that, the need for self-understanding as
Yeah,
you go along. And that's great that you have that whole group together that can function that way.
I know. It's
Yeah.
exciting. And I have two 16-year-olds and a 14-year-old. So I'm in the throes of the teen years, and we're
Oh,
having
God, help me.
they're so good. I think now that we know, we can just kind of I encourage them to just be honest with their feelings and their communication, and really say what's on their mind all the time, no matter what it is, so that we can communicate clearly with them. I think
Cool.
clear communication and intentions are more important than anything, because it
Definitely.
lays the basis for building and solutions.
About 15 years ago, right when I got diagnosed, I was a year or so into it. I was at the University of Indiana where my daughter was playing basketball. And I'm behind all of my children there. They're all young adults, like 18, 20, 25. And they're walking in front of me through a parking lot. And I realized, how did they get more socially adept than me? How did they get smarter than me? I couldn't figure it out. I said, how come they know stuff that I don't? And it
Yeah.
was like, I'm like the disabled one and they're all normal. And and it was an opening, like, okay, and then it took me a while to get to, well, Michael, you're smarter in these areas than they are. And they come to me for help in those areas. But socially, I'm still behind that, most of them, just because they're atypical, they're normal socially.
How's that been for them, that diagnosis process?
Oh, well, I can tell you that I got more confirmation than I wanted. When I told them about my diagnosis, they all went, "Oh, that explains everything." And they
Oh,
started telling me all these stupid stories, like, "Dad, you're the only one who took his Christmas cards in the stands at a basketball game, and you're doing your Christmas cards." You know, this is back in the day when people did
yeah,
that.
that's funny.
These kind of things, remember when you said this
Great.
to me in front of my friends or whatever. So I
Yeah.
said, okay, I got it, you know, but it was pretty, a little bit humbling, to hear that
Oh,
they saw it. And that was good that I needed that feedback to move forward. You know,
absolutely.
I have a lot of stories like that, like how I realized that I could be more social. My brother moved to Las Vegas, where I was living, and I had group homes there that I operated. And he was going to work for me. And that time is before the computers, right? So he went to the bank, the little branch that I went to, only one woman there. I had gone to see this woman for 7 years. I didn't know her name and never talked to her. And he went in there, and I came back the next week to do my banking. And she goes, "Oh, you're Jim's brother," and starts talking to me about my whole family and everything. And I was pissed off.
Oh,
Why did he say all this about me?
yes.
It took a couple years more for me to have enough of those things happen that I was on and I remember, this is how Aspie brains work, right? We remember where we were and everything. So I was on a rental car van, and I was the only one on it with this young guy, about 20 something years old. And he starts talking to me about the freaking football team from Indianapolis that I'm not interested at all. He said, "Hey, how about those, whatever?" And then I started talking to him about the Patriots a little bit, even though I'm really not interested that much. And I said, "Okay, Michael, extend yourself." And I switched the conversation to bicycle paths and museums of art, which I love. And then he told me all about where to go and how to rent a bike and everything. And when I got off the freaking, when I'm stepping off the van, I felt lighter. Like that was like the first time I would, why would I have a conversation with this 20-year-old hick kid who probably didn't graduate from high school? That's the way my brain, my judgmental Aspie brain would work. And I said, wow, look how much I learned from that kid.
Yeah.
I need to be more open to the world.
Yeah.
And I'm already operating CIP for 15 or 20 years. And that's my brain. That's 15 years ago, right? Or even 20 maybe.
No, I love that. I understand that so much. My husband, there, if he goes to a gas station, he just told the story yesterday. He said, I went to the same gas station until they say, hello, how are you? How's your day? And he said, I'll never go back again. He'll never go back to the gas station once they've recognized his face that he's come there more than once. He'll never go back again because he does not. And he had to, just like you're saying, he had to make kind of rules for himself that, and he would tell me, okay, today when I'm at Home Depot, he does restoration, so they go to the Home Depots and Lowe's or the
Yeah, yeah.
hardware stores a lot. And he says, when I'm there, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna say hello and listen to one person like every day. I'm gonna try.
There you go. That's what I talk about in my presentations, being
Yeah.
a self-change agent. You have to learn to do that. So I walk down the street with my dogs to the park. There's other people I walk by, gringos too, with dogs. I did it for a year, and I finally said, I'm going to cross the street and talk to that guy, that older guy, and talk to him. And it was really nice. And now every time I see him, I say hi. And so this is the opposite. I made rules for myself, like if someone says, hey, you want to go for coffee? Normally I'd be in my brain, I have to do these projects, I have to do the podcast, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I would say no. But now I just say yes, unless I absolutely can't, because I pass up too many opportunities to be out in the world with people,
Good for
you
you.
know?
Yeah. Well, I'm really proud of you for that. Not that I,
Well, thanks.
am younger and everything, but I'm still proud of you. I think that that's a fantastic thing. I think that,
Yeah.
just sharing our experiences. Well, and I'm quite the opposite, as you can tell, is that I am the wanting to say hello, especially my favorite people to make friends with are the people that people often look past, like the lady who's cleaning the trash at the grocery stores or something. I always make
Right.
sure I stop and say hello to her. I tell her thank you, and then I just, it makes me feel better that, like, I made this connection, and I hope that somebody else stops and says thank you to her too.
So you know
So,
how many times a day that when I drive my car, the Mexicans don't stop for people to cross the street. They'll run over an old lady or a woman with a stroller. And when you stop and put your blinkers on, there's another lane, they will stop. And the people look at you like you respect me. They look at you in the face like, wow, you respect me. And they have sort of this pride when they walk across the street
wow.
because you're respecting them. It's
Mhm.
such a big deal. You can see it on their face like, wow,
Yeah.
he cared enough to stop for me.
Yeah.
It's where,
Just
little
seeing
things.
people.
My seventh grade teacher, this is how Aspies work, right? I still have contact with my seventh grade teacher, who was only 10 years older than me because he was very young. And on Facebook, he'll tell me when I'm off base, and he'll say, you shouldn't be saying that. And stuff. But he was my mentor. He was a really good mentor, solid young guy. And he wrote in my eighth grade, we had little books when we graduated from eighth grade, little books you sign. And he wrote in there, Mac, that's what they used to call me. Mac, it's the small things that you do in life that make the big, I'm going to cry, that make,
Oh,
that make the big things. And it stuck in my freaking brain coming from my mentor. And I always knew that if I do the small things well, and CIP is a tribute to that. I was
yeah.
the, painter, the renovator, I did a lot of what your husband's doing, a lot of
Yeah.
it for buildings, a lot of buildings for students to stay in, everything, offices. I did a lot of that. During Christmas holidays, I'd be painting and fixing. And I had to graduate to being a director. I was the director, the admissions director, the janitor, everything, the first couple students. It took, 10 years for me to hire other people in those areas. So, I understand the ethic and hard work, and if I had been cognitively flexible before that, I probably would have let go and let other people do more
Mm.
and moved across, but I wasn't ready, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, our lives just happen that way. We're all on our own unique journeys where we things happen for us when we're ready. And as parents, I know that I've learned so much more having my son who is semi-verbal, maybe a forever child in my home. I don't know, and if that's the case, I've learned so much through being patient, following his lead, understanding what his environment needs to keep him happy and healthy and safe. And I think it's created such a more well-rounded person for me to be as a human out in the world and the community.
Exactly.
And I think
I,
you have had the same experience. It sounds like.
well, I have a granddaughter that's 10 who hardly speaks still.
Yeah.
She's you can tell she has full intelligence and everything. She's
Yeah.
just has apraxia and stuff, and she's a little bit on the spectrum. I don't know what she is exactly. She's false. She's a snowflake. But my daughter was reticent to do anything when she was about 2. And luckily, what happened is all 4 of my daughters had babies at the same time.
Wow.
So that you could see developmentally what was going on very easily. When the other ones are talking and doing everything.
That's hard.
And so we had a little family conference. We go on family vacations together. My ex-wife, myself, my other daughters with her, and she immediately got very defensive. And we said, listen, we're not trying to attack you, but you need to get her tested. And, and now I've been her biggest ally. I pay for the special school she goes to. My daughter is really using all of she's like a CIP parent. She knows what she has to do. And she's doing all of it. And her husband, who had ADD growing up and was medicated, was against it to begin with, but he's wonderful. And I've complimented him every time I go up there. I said, Ollie, you have really, a lot of the guys don't get it in families, and they will be against the, diagnosis or anything.
Yeah.
And he's done really well with it. So, that's the important thing. You get the family working together, right? And
Absolutely.
that's really important for them. And I tell my daughters all the time about this daughter. I'm going to go see her in a week or so. So up in Maine, so on my trip. So I will, she's the one who's told me about losing the therapist now. She's struggling to find someone.
Yeah.
But I think that education and knowledge are a big thing, and being open to new ways of trying things. For example, with her, they're doing swimming and horses, which really seems to open it up. When we first did equine at CIP, it was in Florida, and we had this psychologist who was running a program about an hour from where our center was. I was really like, I'm a very, you got to convince me. I got like I'm from Missouri. Show me. And so I said, I'm going to come and you can do it with me. And she put me in the ring with these they have these wild horses in Florida. They escaped from the Spanish galleons. They're small horses and they're wild out. And so she put me in a ring with these 2 wild little horses. And she said, okay, try to keep them separate from each other. And I couldn't do it. I'm running around trying to do it. And she said, okay, try to get them to come to you. They wouldn't come there, like everything. So she says, well, what are you going to do differently? So I got on my knees and sat down and just closed my eyes, put my hands out, and they slowly came over to me and let me even touch them. And it was like a huge experience. It was like, oh, okay. So when I calm myself and when I show, because they're very jitterish horses, hyper vigilant. And it was just like a really cool thing. And I thought, and so one of the students had experience, when a horse has a calf, what do they call a horse? A baby horse, I forgot. Well, anyway, a baby horse, right? A colt, a foal or a colt or something, yeah. Anyway, they won't let anyone near it, unless it's the trainer or the parent or someone who's worked with them. This girl went out in the field, one of our Aspie girls, and just slowly stood there, and it came to them and let her
Mm.
pet the baby. Another time, this one student went out in the field and sat down. All the cows came to her, right to her. And these are spiritual experiences for these kids
Oh, yeah,
on the spectrum. Like dogs. I was socialized by my dogs growing
absolutely.
up. It's probably why I don't know how to, talk to people.
Right. I love that. Well, and I hear you
Yeah.
have dogs in the background now. What kind of dogs do you
I
have
have
now?
4 street dogs. It's my
Oh.
lowest number finally, because they're so. I mean, the other day I was walking down the street. One of them someone had attacked it in its
Oh,
eye and its face, but it wouldn't come to me. I was going to take it to the vet and grab it, but it ran off from me. But ours have all been ones that out in the middle of nowhere, like my little
yeah.
puppy up in the mountains that was there by itself. I don't know how it got there. Or ones that jump up on your car in the middle of traffic, this kind of
Wow.
thing. So, yeah, we have four. They were quite different because the gringos bring dogs down and they interbreed. So we have every kind of dog you can
That
think
makes
of,
sense.
and
Yeah.
they interbreed. So it's not as bad because they have clinics where they spay a couple hundred dogs
Mm,
on a
that's
Saturday, and things like that. And there's a lot of dog adoption agencies and stuff. But it was pretty bad 8 years ago when I came down here. There was quite a few.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you get to immerse yourself in your community down there. It sounds like that's what's happening, and what an amazing life. It's like goals, right? Goals for me to look forward to. Mexico,
Well,
if I do it right.
it's wherever you are, it's how you're
Yeah.
being in it, right? And
Yes, for
so
sure.
I just don't. I have trouble for years with the lack of light and sun in the winters,
Yeah.
and it was really depressed me. And I think it's Irish melancholy. I'm sort of half Irish and German depression. That
Yeah.
it wasn't good for me. So I need to be outside. I go out in my shorts to feed the dogs in the morning. It's like all year round. So I really need that, and I need the sun. Down here, I stay away from the sun. When I'm up north, I try to get it whenever I can,
Isn't that
because
interesting irony,
yeah,
huh?
it's too much, right?
Oh, that is funny.
Anyway, we can chat forever. I'm full of baloney,
Oh, this has been
but
so wonderful.
it's a
Do you have
nice
a
thing.
website I can share?
Sure, it's michaelmcmanmon.com.
Oh, that
And that's also all my art is on there, all of my writing, my books, everything. And I do speaking still, but it's people don't invite speakers as often as they used to. But I'm willing to do that, and I like doing it. I don't know why I discovered that about 15 years ago. I guess since once I was diagnosed, that I'm really good in public,
Hmm.
much better than I am in private. And so it was really good. I really, the bigger the audience, the easier it is for me for some
Wow,
reason.
I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
very strange.
It's been so wonderful getting to know you, and I learned so much, and I just appreciate how much value and resources and education you're bringing to the world and to the community. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. You're really good at this, so keep doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I will keep doing it. And, I'm learning so much. And now I can say, on my repertoire, I've had about 600 interviews in total. So
It's
I
crazy.
think that we can, yeah. How that's so much learning for me. Like, I,
I bet.
the smartest person. Just kidding. Me and my kiddo, yeah, I think that if he had the ability to have a cognizant, like reciprocative conversation, you would find him to be a one fascinating dude. It's been such an amazing life to just kind of get into the uh, understanding autism, embracing autism, living autism, just
Yeah.
celebrating
Yeah,
autism.
you know what? And I want to make a political statement, but not overtly. But people who don't have a child like yours or haven't experienced it in their family, a major tragedy, like I've experienced a lot of suicides in my family and
Mm.
all kinds of problems. they don't get it, how they're the lack of compassion and empathy when they vote on things like
Mm.
services for young adults,
Yeah,
and things, how crucial these services are needed for someone like probably in your son's situation or maybe my granddaughter's.
absolutely.
And it's so sad to me politically that that our country is moving in the opposite direction from. And so we're going to have a little mini social revolution
Mhm. Do
of
some work, people.
people sticking together and
Yes.
getting the right people in there who understand this,
Yeah.
understand the role of government. You can't do this on your own unless you're
Yeah.
rich.
Oh,
You
so
can't
true.
afford the private school. You can't afford,
Yeah.
to make some of the parents make their own group homes,
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
group of
100%.
families and support those kids for their lifetime.
Sometimes the parents turn into the most passionate advocates that ever lived. That is the truth.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, wow. Well, I hope we can stay in touch and, meet up
Yeah,
another.
I have a whole list of topics for you. So when you're
I'm
ready.
excited. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and,
Okay.
until next time.
Yeah, take care, Sarah. Thanks.